Testing, testing. Yeah, I think it's good. So let's see. Try again. I have to retry. Okay, I'll be fine. Thank you. Myself. Mute. Okay. This is so cool. Two people online so far. Very good. So welcome everyone. Welcome those who are online. Please send us a message on the chat. Let us know that you're there. Otherwise, I can't see names. But once you type something there, the name will pop up on my screen, and I will be able to read whatever you have to share with us. Few people that they already received the class on PDF format, so they can follow it from home. For those who started the cycle from the beginning, this is class number 5. I sent her the PDF, but yeah, I did. She said that she's going to be online, just in case she missed it. Trying to find ways to put a screen here. That will be next. That will be next to have a. You can probably put a 80-inch TV there. What do you think? No, it doesn't have to be. It could be there. Right? It could even be a drop-down. Or a cart, something that we can push. Yeah. It could be here. And you don't have to read the thing. You can be projecting things there. Oh, great, Tyron, you typed. Okay, great. For those who are online, let me tell you that there is about 20-25 seconds delay. So if I'm not answering things right away, sometimes that's what it is. It takes a little bit. When you're listening, already happened 20 seconds ago. So this is story of your life. Okay, so again, for those who started from the beginning, this is class number 5. We're going to talk about the concept of work or hard work and how the rabbis are thinking about work, what's their opinion about it. It's interesting. I'm laughing because you're probably all aware of certain practices within the religious world that people will go and become students full-time. They don't work. Have you ever heard cases like that? Oh, yeah. So they're rabbis, but they don't teach. They don't have a pulpit. They don't do funerals. They don't do bar mitzvahs. They don't do weddings. All they do is to study. You may wonder, to study for what? Just for the sake of study. That's their mission in this world, to study. And it was very controversial at one point. There were some rabbis that they were in favor of developing that culture within Judaism. There were some others that they were against. So it was quite interesting. Okay, but let's see what Pirkei Avot have to say about work. One of my favorite statements is coming from chapter 1 of Pirkei Avot, Mishnah number 10. Who wants to read for us today? I will pass the microphone again. So, and by the way, what happened is because it's going online, the class will remain on YouTube, so you can always revisit the class after. You can replay it if you wanna do something. Shimshon, please.
Shema Shemaiah and Avtalion received from them Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shattah. Shemaiah says, love work, despise positions of power, and do not become intimate with the government.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see what we understand there. Let's go step by step. This is very important. Shemaiah and Avtalion. Why am I mentioning two names? Because we are talking about the Zugot here. We talked about that in the previous series, that Jewish history from a rabbinical point of view is divided into different eras. The first one is the Zugot. Zugot in Hebrew means pairs, and the characteristics of the era of the Zugot is that we always talk about two people. These two people, one was always the president of the Sanhedrin, and the other one was always the Av Beit Din, which means the head of the Beit Din, the rabbinical court. And they will work always together. And in theory, they should be debating about the law, but tradition said that they barely disagree or anything. And when they disagree, it was something like really not transcendental. One of the most famous disagreements between the Zugot, and this is something that was happening in every single generation of the Zugot, was about a discussion about the semicha. It's not a semicha for rabbi, become a rabbi. You know, when you become a rabbi, you get a semicha. This was about putting the hands on top of the animals before sacrifice. You have to do that or not? They were discussing about that. I guess for them, it was a big deal. After the Zugot, we have the Tanaim. Why it's so important to know about the Tanaim? Hello? It's because the Tanaim were the one who wrote the Mishnah. And then after the Tanaim, we have the Amoraim. And those are important because those are the one who wrote the Gemara, which is the second part of the Mishnah. Remember, Mishnah plus Gemara equals Talmud. Mishnah plus Gemara equals Talmud. And then after that, you have the Geonim. After the Talmud was closed, there were these prominent rabbis on the Babylonian academies.
What did the Zugot write?
Nothing. The Zugot are considered pre-Mishnaic rabbis. We don't know if they wrote it or not, but they are quoted later on. But they were not engaged in the process of writing the Mishnah. It was based on their teachings, but that came up.
Were they all before the destruction of the temple?
The Zugot. I can't remember when was that.
If they're talking about sacrifice.
It was after the first temple. After the first temple was destroyed, I believe.
Oh, so they're way, way back.
Because we have the time here. I think I wrote it. Because you will see I wrote it when they live, actually. What time of history. Yeah. Okay. Geonim, yes. So let's read about Shemaiah and Avtalion, who are the guys mentioned here, and what it says. Who wants to read about Shemaiah and Avtalion? I will pass the mic to Shirley. Very much. Text B.
These Zugot were descendants of converts. The Talmud traces their ancestry as far back as the Assyrian emperor Sanherib, who conquered the northern kingdom of Israel and laid siege to Jerusalem during the time of the prophet Isaiah and the reign of the righteous king Hezekiah. Ironically, from this unsavory lineage came two great men who advanced the cause of Torah and tradition amongst the people of Israel. After the death of Queen Shlomozion, her two sons Hachrinos and Aristobulus.
Okay, so let's go. Queen Shlomozion actually is a fancy name from,
The Greek?
there is an opera about her.
Oh, I should know that.
Salome,
Salome, yes.
which actually she's praised by the Talmud, by the way. She's considered a righteous woman, which is interesting because I was reading about Salome from a rabbinic point of view, and she was a queen.
Yeah.
When her husband passed away, she became queen. Actually, I think she was queen for something like 9 months. But there are no laws whatsoever in the Torah to teach us what to do with a female king. Because remember, one of the things that the king of Israel had to do was related to the Torah. What was it?
Write a copy and carry it with him?
Can a woman do that?
Well, depends who you ask.
It's a,
Traditional Orthodoxy.
I don't know. I tried to find it and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I went to forums where people ask the rabbis, and it's almost like they're avoiding answering that question. Yes.
Yeah, she must be well regarded in Jewish tradition because there's a Shulchan Alka street in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
If they create a street for her,
Yeah, they had the street. Yeah, she was very well regarded, and we can't say the same about her husbands. The first husband was pro-Sadducees, which means he was against the rabbis, and the second one, at the beginning, was for the rabbis, and then he changed.
But why was she considered to be righteous?
Because she was a believer.
Ah.
A believer in the rabbis. That's the thing. Because remember, back then, the rabbis were kind of a new thing. There were many people that they were followers of the Sadducees,
Yes.
that they said that the oral law was a Bubemeiser,
Yes.
right? They said, we never heard of such a thing. So there was a tension between them. So for example, when we are talking about a king that it was against the Pharisees and it was for the Sadducees, today we know that those kings were terrible.
Yeah. In hindsight, they were terrible.
Because, but you have to remember who wrote history.
Yes.
The rabbis. So, yeah. Okay? So, Queen Shlomzion. Sorry, actually, I
That's okay.
stopped.
The Sadducees regained power, and the Jewish people were subjected to an ongoing political power struggle and were severely demoralized by the cynicism and corruption it brought. Sheremiah and Avilon stood.
Shemaiah and
Avtalyon.
Avtalyon.
Avtalyon stood above the dispute. They labored to imbue the nation with the love of Torah and an adherence to tradition and the Jewish vision that would transcend the bitterness, disgrace, and destruction of the political power struggle. They saw past the politics of the moment and focused on creating an eternal people that would survive all historical events by its loyalty to the Torah and God of Israel.
Okay, so perhaps now we can understand why these two wrote what they wrote. Okay, we're going to talk about this thing of love work. But then when it says despise position of power, even more, do not become intimate with the government. Well, they have a history with that. It's not that they just one day woke up and said this is bad.
By intimate, do they mean a follower of the government, a believer in what the government is doing, or do they mean part of the government? Do they mean a special interest?
Yeah, became friendly.
Okay.
Became friendly.
Like today, we would say a bedfellow, a fellow traveler.
Yeah. So,
Did they suggest
Or the
leaving,
kitchen cabinet.
sorry?
did they suggest leaving actual government to evil people and wouldn't it be?
No. But remember, they don't say don't talk to the government. They say don't become too close. To feel that they're accepting you because you are so great, because that's not reality.
What they're saying.
They would say be cautious, Because if they seems to be too good to you, and they praise you, whatever, it's because they want something from you. So take distance.
They say be careful of power.
Yeah, because then it corrupts in the sense that you could be in a situation when eventually you owe something to somebody. And they didn't want to compromise Torah. So, in these days when we are talking about the post-Hasmonean era, remember? Story of Hanukkah? First generation, they were great, but then it started to sink, became corrupt, and became closer to the Greeks, and to the point that the last few kings of Israel under the Greek government, they already took Greek names.
But it's interesting to note that in the, we talk about the Pharisees and Sadducees. In the Christian milieu in which we find ourselves, the Pharisees do not have good press.
Yeah, but I believe that part of the bad press they had is because it was something new, and what happened when you have a movement that started from zero, from scratch, and started becoming mainstream. Lots of things was jealousy because the way they were growing, and many of the things that we receive about the Pharisees came from Christian sources, right? Because they were the ones who wanted to keep the what we call today the Old Testament, right? The law of Moses. But in a way that it was foreign to people. Many people they don't, even to the day, they don't understand oral law, which was the source of power of the Pharisee. Pharisee is the one who called themselves a rabbi. When the Torah says that they are rabbis, show me where in the Torah. It's not in the Torah, it's in the oral law. Can I see the oral law? No, you cannot. It's oral.
Also, some of the mindset in Christian writings against the Pharisees is due to distortions of things from entries in the Gospels, where JC is criticizing, or said to be criticizing, the Pharisees. But there are harsher criticisms in the Talmud of different parties of Pharisees criticizing other groups of Pharisees who act like they're holier than thou
And the prophets,
than others.
the prophet is the same.
Yeah. So
We're criticizing the leaders, the prophets, right? Every time. But that what you said is something that is represented here too. We're going to read about that in a minute. The abuse of power that becoming a rabbi could generate. Once you become a rabbi, in those days, that gives you certain power over other people, and that could be bad too. Just as a point, you see, if you read it in Hebrew, it says, "Ehov et hamelacha." What is ehov? Comes from the word ohev, lehov, which means to love. Ehov melacha. What is melacha? It's what we cannot do on Shabbat, right? So, love work. Usna. Lisnoa is hate. Et harabanut. What does it mean, harabanut? Well, literally means the institution of the rabbis, but there are two rabbis saying this. We're going to see what they're talking is about the abuses that becoming a rabbi could create. That's what he said, you have to hate. But then he said, Ve'al tidvada la rashut. Rashut is, the government. Okay, but let's read now about the Zugot. Text. Another reader. Text. We're still page.
Zugot, pairs. Name given to the leading teachers of the law in the time preceding the Tanaim. The name Zugot was given to those teachers because, according to the tradition in Tb Hagigah,
TV, remember, means Talmud from Babylonia. And then the next word is always the tractate. So this one is Tractate Hagigah, but the one from the Talmud of Babylonia, because there is another one that is the Talmud from Jerusalem. So Talmud for Jerusalem in general in the future classes will be TY. Talmud from Babylonia will be TB. Remember, the next name is always the name of the tractate.
To the tradition in Babylonian Talmud Tractate Hagigah, two of them always stood at the same time at the head of the Sanhedrin, one as the president, Nasi, and the other as vice president or father of the court of Beit Din. There were 5 pairs of these teachers, Yossi ben Yozer and Yossi ben Yochanan, who flourished at the time of the Maccabean Wars of Independence, 2, Yeshua ben Periah and Nital of Arbela at the time of John Hyrcanus.
You see, the names are already Greek. They're already John Hyrcanus, and it was Jewish king.
3, Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Sheta at the time of Alexander Janai and Queen Shalom Tzion Salome. 4, Shemaiah and Avtalion at the time of Hyrcanus II. And 5, Hillel and Shammai at the time of King Herod.
Okay? So those were the Zugot that we know. And tradition says the Zugot started to exist immediately after the time of the prophet. So going back to the first question, yes, this is after the destruction of the first temple. Okay? Because the destruction of the first temple marks the end of the times of the prophets. And remember the Hasmoneans, they were the one who re-entered the temple. That's why we celebrate Hanukkah. Okay, let's start talking about the Mishnah. Text D, page 2. Another reader.
From the teachings of our sages and from tradition as explained in Hasidic texts, it is clear that work is important in itself, and not only as a means to an end. Not only does work use up a person's time so that he does not remain idle, thus avoiding sin, but in addition, when work is done for the sake of heaven, a person fulfills the divine mission which has been imposed upon him to purify and elevate the physical world.
Okay? So it's yes.
I'd like to have a definition of work, because there's this thing, al shlosha devarim, the three things that the world stands on, al haTorah, al havodah,
Gemilut Chassidim.
How is avodah defined? Are we talking about that kind of avodah? Are we talking about parnasah?
No. The Avodah defined in Al Shlosha Devarim is talking about the worship. That Avodah means sacrifices in the temple. So the Talmud, the Mishnah says Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed Ala Torah. So the world stands on 3 things, 3 legs, right? Torah, worship to God, and good deeds. It's not. It's tricky because in modern Hebrew, avodah means work, but in old Hebrew, avodah meant service in the temple.
Which
Called
in and of
avodah.
itself is work, is a form of work.
Yeah, but it was used differently.
Different kinds of work. We think of work as being physical labor or something that you do for some kind of recompense.
Yeah, I don't know why the word was used. I mean, I don't know why we use in modern Hebrew avodah as work. Because back in the Talmud, avodah was clearly talking about the service in the temple. And then work, as to what we call work, was melacha, which is exactly what is forbidden on Shabbat. In these days, we define melacha as creative work. Something that is, but the Mishnah is talking about melacha. Melacha is when you do something creative, when you do something that is benefiting somebody else, when you are doing something for the world. That's melacha. Avodah as work, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are getting a retribution or a pay for that. For example, the rabbis will say that on Shabbat, you can work. What you cannot do, melacha.
There's that kind of work. There's spiritual effort, and physical effort. And so on Shabbat, we are forbidden physical effort,
No,
labor.
no, we are not.
You can't go out and help.
No, but you can move a grand piano from the living to the family room.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because it's considered moving. You only talk about moving when you take something from private property to public property. Okay? You steal tool. It's forbidden on Shabbat unless you have an eruv.
Yes.
But if you are within your home, you can reorganize your furniture on Shabbat. It might not be in tune with the spirit of Shabbat, but according to the letter of the law, you're allowed to do it. But you are not allowed to write on a piece of paper, remember to buy milk on Sunday, which is no effort.
So, along with that line of moving the piano,
Or maybe piano wouldn't be a good example because it's muktzah. But,
where would vacuuming come in, for example?
but then you're using electricity.
Then you're using electricity.
Yes.
The way I understand this, when I say a prayer every morning, offering my whole day, which is what you're saying here, elevating, so your consciousness and your intention is directly to the divine.
Yeah.
And it sanctifies everything you do.
Once the sacrifices were terminated because the temple was destroyed, the avodah that it used to be sacrifices was started to be called avodah shel halev, work from the heart, which replaced the sacrifices. But the work mentioned in this Mishnah is not the kind of spiritual work. It's talking about physical work for pay or salary.
Okay, but what I just read here, read it again. Everything is sanctified.
Yeah, it said, it is clear that work is important. It says, it is clear that work is important in itself, okay? And not only as a means to an end. So that means that, yeah, of course, you work because you need money to support your family, but
That's one level.
no, but it's important by itself is just by the fact that you're going to work. You're not going to see that paycheck for 2 weeks or a month, depends how you get paid, right? But nevertheless, going to work every day, even though you're not getting paid that day, it has a benefit to your body and your soul, because working, doing something productive for this world is good for you. Okay? Not only does work use up a person's time, this is very important. We're going to talk about it in a minute. That the work actually helps you to use up your time, so that he does not remain idle. Because according to the rabbis, remaining idle is very dangerous. It has a biblical support, that statement that I just said. Thus avoiding sin. Basically, we say if you don't work, you have more chances to commit sin. We all know that, right? In addition, when work is done for the sake of heaven, person fulfills a divine mission. Basically, it means that the fact that you go to work and you do things for the world, don't think that you do it for yourself. You're a tool in God's hand. God does not do things in this world except through us. And we have the concept in Judaism that is each one of us has a divine purpose. And you have to take it very seriously, because what happens is many times the fulfillment of other people's divine purposes depends on you. So if you don't do your part, you might be affecting more people than you can imagine.
But the line here is the intention, when work is done for the sake of heaven. So you have to have the intention. You have to unite your intention.
Yes, but again, this is not talking about a prayer. This is talking about when you go to work and you know that you do it because God wants you to be there. God wants you to be there. This is something that we could be talking all night about it. But the fact that, for example, in religious groups, it will be very rare that somebody will quit their jobs unless they have another offer. Why? Because otherwise the understanding is God wants you there. But I'm miserable. My boss treats me like, sorry, I can't say it. But I said, no, there is a reason for that. Because if God wouldn't want you there, you will have another opportunity knocking at your door. It's a concept that
But that's where we were.
so basically what you feel is whatever you do, you have to have the faith, the emunah, that's what you should be doing at that time. And maybe it's a preparation for something bigger that will come in the future. Maybe that nasty boss that you have is preparing your character to take a big promotion in the future, that character developed will be fundamental in your success. So yes, you might be taking a shortcut now if you want. I quit at it, but then you won't be ready. Eddie.
I've brought this subject up before. That's assuming that God micromanages.
Yeah, of course. That's what I said. This is something that if you have to believe that God micromanages the world.
That
Yes.
could be a dangerous belief. If we assume that God put in place a dictator or a tyrant, we wouldn't resist him. And as I understand it, the little I have read in the subject, Judaism supports unionism and collective activities. I think even in the early days, maybe we didn't have formal unions in those days, but I think in the early days, workers could stop, couldn't they? They didn't think the economic...
The thing is, when you are talking about dictators and other things, halakha, Jewish law, is very specific of things that we can tolerate and things that we should not. We have clearly defined our limits when you say enough is enough. I'm talking more about daily things.
We just had an example of that in the news tonight, that Saudi Arabia was targeting civilians in Yemen, and the Secretary of State for the U.S. said, or one of the government people said, at no time should we support their allies. I know it's complicated there, but at no time when you target civilians should you align yourself.
Okay?
That was the example about an hour or so before I came.
Rabbi, going back to where we were a few minutes ago, when you suggested that we are an instrument of God,
Yeah, we all are. We are instruments of God. It's that we say it all the time when we pray Aleinu on the service. Letaken olam malchut Shaddai. Letaken olam means to repair the world. We are reminded of that every single day. So redemption should come through us.
What would the Torah say, like on what I just said?
Well, it's on the Talmud, but yes, we can't tolerate that. That is a limit.
How could we be instruments of God? Let's say our work, we're an advertiser, or, an animator, and our work was to promote tobacco use. How could that be an instrument?
Tobacco, what, sorry?
Tobacco, we used to have tobacco advertising.
Who?
Everybody, there used to be.
Okay, so?
How could that be? How could that work be an instrument of God if tobacco is so harmful to people? I mean, wouldn't the person who was at a
Well,
job?
I don't want to go to specifics, but
Not everything that's legal work that
No,
earns a living
I understand.
is a good thing. That's what I'm saying. Some of the jobs that people have are harmful, and
Yeah, I don't think anybody here was saying that all the jobs that are done are good and desirable.
no. Of course, if something that is bad for you, you shouldn't tolerate it. But we are talking, I gave example, for example, things that they are that generate discomfort. It's I will give one more example and then we move on from this topic. That is sometimes we're in Winnipeg here, you might be aware, sometimes when you walk on the street and it smells like what? Coming from the fields. Like what? Huh? Like manure? What is that? What do you use it for? So you realize that to grow the crops and the things, they are using manure, fertilizer. If you could be that seed, somebody put that smelly things on top of you, what would you think? If that seed would think?
Vitamins.
Huh?
Vitamins.
Value added.
He said, this is the end, but that's what is making that seed strong. Sometimes we have to go through.
Recycle and reuse. In other words, discernment.
If you have a nasty boss, it's not bad. It's just manure. The next time you see him, say, just leave my name out of it. But okay, let's keep moving. Text E. Who's reading? Who has the microphone? Eddie, text E.
You have to.
I thought it was on. I could hear it. It's green. Every time it's green, it's on. You have to talk to the mic. E.
Even an independently wealthy person should engage in some type of work. Extended idleness can lead to mental atrophy.
And that's coming from the Talmud.
Talmud Babylon, Ketubos 59b. Thus, an occupation has a benefit beyond that of producing income. It keeps one occupied and therefore productive and prevents mental deterioration. However, not all occupations are equally desirable from a Torah viewpoint.
Okay, and that's what you were saying, right, Eddie?
Yeah.
Not the occupations were the same. Text F. Let's keep going. Rabbi Meir.
Rabbi Meir says, one should always teach his son a clean and easy trade. For example, clean in that it doesn't lend itself to dishonesty, and easy in that it does not require excessive involvement, so that the person will not be prevented from studying Torah. And he should pray to him, to whom all wealth and possessions belong, because there is no trade that does not include both want and wealth. In every trade there are wealthy men and poor men. Thus, no matter what his trade, he must rely on God.
Okay, so this is interesting. Sorry?
That's the key. You must rely on God.
Yeah, So, but here we have a new concept. They said, yes, work is very important, but it can't be just work. It has to be a balance. It has to be a balance. And this is going to be connected, you will see in a few minutes, with the next Mishnah that we're going to read.
So that's enough, but not only as a means to an end.
Yeah, so we should do something for the world. We should work for that reason, and we have to support our families. But at the same time, we have the obligation to study Torah. It's called Talmud Torah. It's an obligation of every Jew. We're supposed to do it daily. That's why in these days, you have so many websites. I don't know if you noticed that. I can provide you with lists. Websites where you can study Torah. And you have free lectures from different rabbis. One of my favorites is called TorahAnytime.com. They just, you have to watch the videos or you can play the audio of the classes, tons of classes and things. I think Aisha Torah does the same, Chabad does the same.
Or you, JTS.
JTS or you, yeah, they have all the things. Why are they, all these people, and they rely on donations, but why are they putting these websites there? Why are they making it so easy for people? Because they understand that there is a mitzvah to study Torah every day. So they will have all these lecturers that sometimes you will see. Some of the lectures are hour and 50 minutes, or 2 hours lecture. But there are other lectures that they are 3.5 minutes. So why? Because this is, if you want to take it like your daily doses of Torah, you just go there, you play 3.5 minutes video, and then you move on. You fulfill with the mitzvah. It has to be some kind of balance. If you reach a point when you don't even have 3.5 minutes to study Torah, then you have a problem. This is what the rabbi is trying to say. It has to be a balance. Well, but if I don't study, I don't work all day, how can I make a living? So, well, you have to, again, you have to develop faith. You have to partner with God. You have to partner with God. That it's.
But in the case, how do you explain the case of Rabbi Akiva, who was a shepherd until age 40, and only at age 40 did he become serious about
Yeah.
studying.
He couldn't even read or write before the age of 40, Rabbi Akiva. It's, well, the answer will come with the next Mishnah. The next one is going to talk about that. That will be the statement from Rabbi Tarfon, who was a Tana. Rabbi Tarfon lived during the times of the Mishnah, and he's talking specifically about your question. So I will leave it on hold until we read the statement from Rabbi Tarfon, who will talk specifically about cases like that. What if I'm too late? What if I already passed my prime? What can I do now? Rabbi Tarfon is going to talk about that. That's why I put it in that order. This one is the beginning. We have the obligation from the beginning of our lives to work hard and to balance it with Torah. Okay? Not only that, avoid this desire of doing it to gain power. Beware of politicians. Okay? See, some things never change.
Some of the greatest rabbis were close friends of the power, and that helped the Jewish community. Wasn't Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai a friend of one of who became emperor of Rome? He wasn't the emperor then, and wasn't Yehuda Anasi well respected by the Roman emperor?
Well, but Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was the one who actually, he had to fake his own death. And then became closer to the general, who spared his life and allowed him to start a yeshiva in Yavne. Yeah, but to be really, really close, not sure about that.
It's power, it's neither right nor wrong, it's how it's used.
Yeah, but again, the fear was the sense of, I owe you now. you did me a favor, now I owe you. That was the fear of the rabbi. He didn't want to be in that situation. You have to owe something to a politician.
I've forgotten which Mishnah in Pirkei Avot talks about that.
Yeah, in different places. Yeah.
It kind of goes back to the same thing, intention. If you're in relationship with God and your intentions are good, then how you use your power, it might be polluted, but your intention's good. It won't be perfect maybe, but it'll be usually good.
Yeah. The problem is usually.
Yeah, well, we're all flawed.
And even Moses, he was very powerful. And he had to deal with many situations that were related to his power. He was challenged many times because of his power. So you know that sometimes rabbis would say, if you don't become that powerful, you will have certain problems that you will never have.
But you have to first be in relationship with God.
Oh yeah, but that's
That's first.
yes.
And under ideal circumstances, the Sanhedrin exercised many powers which would now be considered governmental, legislative, and judicial powers. You know, I mean, the king was, pretty much. I said under ideal circumstances, the king was pretty much subservient to the Sanhedrin. They had to approve wars, and so the rabbis themselves exercised power, which we consider secular power as well as pure spiritual powers, didn't they?
Okay. It's but you will see. Let's move on with the thing. Next year I will read this one. It's short. One should engage in any type of occupation, even one quote unquote below his dignity, rather than accept charity. Okay? Very important. That was Rashi. Made it very clear. Let's continue this. We are getting into something interesting here. Text H. I think it's I can't hear you. Is it red?
I'm not sure.
You have to clean the button that says mute. I will do it. No, it's totally off. It's the battery. We have more. If there is something we have lots here are mics. That's okay. It's easier to do this. Now, guys, you cannot shut it off. This one, it will stay on forever. No, it's okay. Thank you. Please.
The Midrash Tanhuma says that Noah threw the message of his name to bring rest.
That's the meaning of the name, Noah.
Okay.
Right? Remember Noah, the one for the ark? In Hebrew, we said Noah.
Greatly eased the burden of agricultural life by inventing 3 basic farm tools: a plow to turn the wheat to be seed, a sickle to cut wheat, and an axe to fell trees. When Noah invented these 3 tools, he sharply reduced the endless drudgery of farming. Suddenly, people were freed of much of the back-breaking task of trying to wrest sustenance from the unyielding earth. What did they do with their newly discovered free time? Did they use it to contemplate spiritual matters or to improve their lives? The sad answer to this question is no. Now the earth had become corrupt before God, and the earth had become filled with robbery. Crime and violence became rampant. Society degenerated at a shocking pace. The worst forms of immorality took place. This was an epidemic of wickedness unparalleled in the 16th century of the world existence, and its result in the destruction of the world with the Mabul flood. Noah certainly meant well by creating these tools, but since nothing was done to fill the abundance of free time that had become unavailable, it led to a complete breakdown of civilization.
Thank you. So this midrash is trying to understand why the flood happened at that time. And how do we know that Noah invented all those things? Well, we don't really know it. The Torah doesn't say that, but it does describe Noah's birth. Who was the father of Noah? Was that Lamech? I believe it was Lamech. Yeah. But Lamech had Noah. This is the thing. Actually, I talked about this last Saturday for the sermon. I was talking about how at the beginning of the world, the Torah simply described the name of the father, the name of the firstborn, and then it was saying, and after that, he had more sons and daughters. Then they will continue with the story of the firstborn to the previous generation, right? And so and so and so. We have a son, I will mention the son by name, plus more sons and daughters. And then and so forth, always picking up the firstborn, continue with the next generation. But when Lamech had Noah, for the first time, somebody said something about the birth of the son. Before it was almost like, I think it was biological, mechanical. Not it was a father, one was a son, the other would have more children, whatever. But there was nothing else. When Lamech had Noah, Lamech said, this one is going to bring relief to the world for the hard work that we have to do in this land that was cursed by God. Remember, creation of the world. Adam and Eve, they ate from the fruit. They were kicked out of paradise. Now they have to work. And God said, the land is cursed because of you. And I also have a conversation with Shelley, that Shelley, you like to dive in bare food. And I was saying that one of the reasons why we Jews use shoes is because we need a layer of separation with the ground that was cursed. You didn't know that. Yeah, we wear shoes because the ground was cursed. So we separate ourselves from the shoes. Technically, when you take your shoes, if you use your hands, you have to wash your hands because that transfers impurity.
Yet when you go to holy places, you take your shoes off.
Exactly. Why we do that? Because it's holy, it's not cursed. That's what God said to Moses. When Moses came with his stinky sandals to the bush, God said, stop right there, remove your shoes, because you're on holy ground. So you don't need the separation anymore. You can touch this ground. As soon as you leave there, you have to put something between your feet and the ground because the ground is cursed. Okay, that was a parenthesis. Let's go back to the topic.
Yes. You know what I was thinking? Artificial intelligence. People will become irrelevant.
Okay?
So,
Where you're reading
what
Dan
we
Brown?
just read, what's going to happen? Like look what happened with just Noah inventing the plow.
Yeah, what we are going to do. But this is the thing. I believe the entire description of the Genesis and the first generation, yeah, of course you can take it literally if you want. You're invited to do so. But I don't think there is much message on taking that part literally. Now, if you take the whole story of the whole book of Genesis, I would say, as an allegory, then you will be blown away of the messages you have there. Okay? So what the Rabbi Rabbi Pam is talking about here is this description that Lamech said about Noah was understood that he did something that brought relief to the farmers. From there, the rabbis used their imagination, said he created 3 tools to make their lives easier. That nobody before Noah thought about that. Now, there was no description of the evil on earth before that. And Rav Pam said this is not a coincidence. What happened is before people were probably evil, but they were too busy working the land. They had to eat.
So that the evil wasn't noticed because
They were busy. They were busy. It's one of the strategies that they use in this day, for example, with people that they are rescued from gangs. What is the first thing they do with them?
Keep them busy.
Keep them busy. As soon as they stop working, or one of the things, either they put them in jail, or before jail is community service. You're doing something, so you cannot do something else. That's also one of the explanations of Jewish law. When we have so many rules of things that Jews to do all the time, every day, it's also to keep us on track. If you know what to do, then you won't be doing something else that might not be.
there's a saying in Christian law that idle hands are the devil's work. And I would imagine that it comes from this thought.
Well, but I don't think they have midrashim.
No.
But here what happened is all of a sudden humanity had a lot of time on their hands, too much time. There was no Torah. There were no Torah classes, no books. So what would they do? So they started to, sorry? Yeah, well, they started gangs. They started attacking each other. That's when we start reading about the description of the evil filling up the world after that. Hold on, social.
But I think there was this problem right from the beginning. Adam and Eve, they were thrown out of the garden, and Cain and Abel, the killing of his brother. So there's something else involved. It isn't just
Yeah, we can see some glimpses. But with Adam and Eve is a perfect example. Because what were they doing all day on the Garden of Eden? Nothing to do. So what did they do? The only thing that was forbidden. Now Cain and Abel is interesting because what happened there is the Torah is talking about jealousy. They said that they both brought an offering to God. Very nice, right? And they will say that Cain's offering was good. It's good enough. Abel's offering was extraordinary. And God said, I like the one from Abel, not impressed with Cain. Why not impressed? There was nothing wrong. He said it was good enough. You know why? Because good enough is not good enough. And sometimes people settle with good enough. And what we learn from that is that a Jew should never settle with good enough. We should aim for excellence. Because we can. There will be a story, who is the prophet? Micah, I think it is. No, Malachi. Malachi, I think it is. That he rebukes the priests because they are sacrificing blemished animals. And rebukes them and says, you should go back to the way our ancestors used to do it, which was to bring the best of the best. Probably visually was nothing wrong with what they were bringing. God knew that they could do better. They would go with the cheap animals because they were probably cheaper, blemished animals, right? And they will keep the good ones for them to eat it. And the prophet comes and says, that's not good. That's not what we learn from the Torah. So going back to that, Cain didn't like it. He liked to live a life of good enough. Even though God was telling him, that's not good. So what did he do? He kills. It's like going to life. I remember once I saw these magnetos that you can put on the fridges. That it says, if you cannot make me thin, make my friend fat. It's the same. It's the same way. if my offering was not accepted, I killed my brother. Now mine is the best. So that story, Cain and Abel, was presented to prove a point.
Were we to take it from this that 16th century in biblical time, as opposed to what we think of as a century, from the beginning of Genesis to where we are, to the flood?
Again,
I mean,
you can,
where's the 16th century?
but again,
comes from?
you can take it literally or not. Remember, in those days, people used to live almost 1,000 years.
Yes.
I think that the record was Methuselah.
Yes.
How do you say it in English, Methuselah?
Methuselah.
969 years. Yeah. Whew. Yeah. I was reading a book once called about people who live almost forever, and they were saying that they were so happy to live to have reached the 21st century because now they can have dentures. Because they said even though they were living forever, the teeth don't regenerate. So they were living in pain for centuries. It's something that you never think about, right? I said now they can have dentures, so they actually are enjoying to live forever. Okay, yes. Yeah, that's what they were saying. Okay, so let's keep reading so we can reach the next one. Let's talk about the thing that we said before, Sena et Rabbanut, that hate the rabbinate. Remember one of the different translations. Text I.
Yes, I know, but say it again.
Sena.
I know, but you translated Sinat.
Rabbanut. It says there, mean hate the rabbinate. It says there, text I. Okay, I will read it. Text I. This Mishnah cannot be interpreted literally. Sena et Rabbanut means hate the rabbinate. You cannot. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to translate literally. It's some kind of idiom, right? But we have to understand what it is. How could poskim, remember that word, poskim means experts on halakha, on Jewish law, develop if there is an atmosphere of animosity towards rabbanut, towards the rabbis. Rather, the Mishnah is referring to the toil associated with the rabbinate. Love the involved and intense Torah study and scholarship which is necessary for a rabbi, but despise the glory and pompousness that might be associated with the rabbi. And this is a Hasidic rabbi saying this. Yeah, but it's something that many rabbis will talk about, especially the Hasidic rabbis, because you can read here a little hint of criticisms to who?
It's a warning.
But who is he criticizing? Menachem Mendel of Kotsk. Mitnagdim, the one who opposed the Hasidim, because they thought the Hasidim were schleppers. And the Mitnagdim in those days were an elite. First you have to be wealthy enough to pay for the classes. And not just to pay for the classes, but they were operating in a way that you couldn't work and study. Almost like going to medical school. One of the things that you can't work and study. It's very difficult. There are other careers that you can, but to become a rabbi in those days, full time. Pretty much in these days too.
Didn't the community support the rabbinical students though?
Not in those days. Nope. Because they wanted to keep an elite. It was a VIP group. And they were pretty much dynasties. They were ichus. Like, how do you translate ichus? It's your genealogy. It's like, that's why you have in those days that it was a rabbi, son of a rabbi, grandson of a rabbi, great-grandson of a rabbi. Why is that? Because it was a very select group. That not everybody was welcome into that exclusive group. But then Hasidism was created, and Torah was accessible for everybody. And rabbis were operating in a different way. It was a more friendly approach to their people. They found, the Hasidic rabbis found that many of the Mitnagdim rabbis, they were inaccessible. And they presented an alternative way to operate. So it's not a coincidence that this rabbi has, you can read a hint of criticism to some group of rabbis, which he doesn't want to mention by name, but everybody knows who they are. Let's read a little bit what the Rambam has to say about governments. Text J. Who wants to read for us?
Okay. Are we on? Okay.
Yes.
Government authorities show favor to people solely for their own purposes. An intimate relationship with them is dangerous, since the moment they no longer stand to gain anything from the association, the relationship will be summarily terminated. In addition, maintaining this relationship demands an overwhelming degree of servitude and allegiance. One's moral and spiritual principles tend to disintegrate as the drive to maintain the favor of the authorities becomes his most overriding concern.
Okay, and this is coming from the Middle Ages. Maimonides and the 1800s, Spain. 1800 in Spain he lived, and he already is warning about this, because there were many people in around Maimonides' time that they tried to, because remember, Jews were living segregated. Sometimes they have to wear this special colors of things that we associate with the Nazis, like the yellow star. Sorry?
It wasn't new in the Nazis' time.
No. They picked it up for something that it was already in Europe. Spain, Italy, Jews have to wear special signs. People will know that who were the Jews. And yeah, when the government, many times the government needed the money of the Jews. Now, this is the thing. Why were Jews working with money in those days? Exactly. They were not allowed to own any land. So that's the only thing they could do. But they became very successful. Many of them became very rich. So then wartime comes, and kings, princes, and other important people, they need money to finance the army. They go to the Jews. You're my friend. You're the best thing in this world. Oh, but you hate me. Forget about it. Everything will change. Just support my campaign. And he did that. Spain, they gave money, and then they were slaughtered anyway.
In their own communities, the Jews could serve in all the professions. I mean, like Rambam was a physician not only with the Jewish community, but the Sultan.
Yes, but the physicians in those days, the Jewish physicians, they were allowed to serve only Jewish patients unless that it was a special dispensation from the king or the governor of the place. I am watching now, I would recommend it to all of you, if you have Netflix, The Cathedral of the Sea.
Of the which?
Sea, S-E-A, The Cathedral of the Sea.
There was a book a number of years ago.
It's about the cathedral in Barcelona, that it was built by the people, not by the rich. But the Bastaich were the one who were, well, originally what they were doing is to carry things from the ships to dry land and from dry land to the ship, because Barcelona doesn't have an actual port. So they have to load and unload the ships. They rely on little boats. Bastaich was the one carrying all these heavy weights. But then they make this kind of vow to the Virgin Mary, and they were the one carrying the stones to build the cathedral. One by one. Actually, they had a rule that they called one Bastaich, one stone. And in their free time, they would do that. They would carry stones all the way to, and they built the cathedral, Barcelona. I think. Why do I say you should watch that? I think it's in the 1300s, Barcelona, and it has a Jewish component. Because this guy, the main character, became friendly with the Jews. But before that, I think it was in episode 2, there was this rich man whose son became very sick, and he's dying. And he's desperate, a desperate father. And he started yelling, "Call the doctor of the Jews." And the wife said, "No, what are people going to say about us?" They were not allowed, even though everybody knew that they were practicing a different kind of medicine. Because the non-Jewish doctors, what they were doing is everything would be about making you bleed. Yeah, they were having this. No, but these cuts, I don't know how they call it. Sorry? No. They will cut you, they will make you bleed. Because they would say that your blood was contaminated, so they take the blood out of your body. It was criminal.
They used to call them the humors.
Yeah. But the Jewish doctors were using herbs and other potions. They were trying to create medicine. They were having different techniques. And Rambam was one of those. But they were not allowed to treat Christians, and if it was happening, it would be very controversial.
Didn't doctors until the 18th or 19th century use leeches?
Yeah, but that's different. Now something that they started to use again in the 21st century. Yeah. So that's what happened with that. So Rambam had a little experience on dealing with governments and things, because he was many times called to the courts, to the palaces, to serve as a physician. And I bet when he went there, he was best friends with everybody. But he quickly realized it's all fake. They were nice to him because they needed him.
In the Jewish communities, many of them had their own self-government up to a point, and it was
Yes.
often the rabbis that served as judges and
But they live in ghettos. They live in ghettos. In this series, it's clear that they show it, how the Jews live segregated. Now, I have to warn you, if you want to watch it, it's a little bit graphic. All you can imagine that happened on the 1300s happens here, and you can see it. Okay? It's very graphic, very. Yeah. It was the other thing. It's made in Spain, so it's in Spanish with English subtitles. I enjoy it very much because I speak Spanish, and they actually use the old Spanish there. Some of the actors nail it better than others, but they use the way it used to be. Spanish used to be spoken in those days. Okay, next K. David, you want to read it? So this one, Rabbi Jonah ben Abraham Gerondi, he was also called as Rabbeinu Yonah, very famous rabbi. He was from the 1700s. Okay.
If one actually joins the hierarchy of the government, the difficulties increase. One cannot serve two masters at once. The yoke of government places a terrible strain on one's ability to bear the yoke of heaven. Sooner or later, officials in the upper echelons will make demands which a servant of God cannot honor, thus bringing the relationship to a sudden end.
And all these rabbis are talking out of experience. They're not quoting any Torah here. They're giving their opinions based on what they saw around them.
But how does this apply when the day comes, has come, when the Jews have a state of their own? How should people adhere to this philosophy, although it probably when you see the political fragmentation that you get from proportional representation.
Yeah, no, this is
and
talking.
And the squalid appeals you have to make.
Ex-
Perhaps it is applicable.
It's an excellent question. These are specifically talking about non-Jewish governments, okay? Because all these rabbis wrote in the diaspora. They didn't experience the kingdom in the past, and they wouldn't imagine that eventually there was going to be a state of Israel. Now, the difference, the state of Israel, is that, but that's okay because we all want, basically, if you participate in the government, it's because it benefits your own people. We may disagree, but at the end of the day, we hope that that's what they want. They may think differently, but it's a different interpretation of what is the best for the people of Israel. That's the difference. But, to be honest, that's the reason why many Orthodox Jews do not participate in the government. I don't know if you noticed that. They don't participate in the government because they don't recognize it.
Nevertheless,
Did not
these
some
warriors,
rabbis
Sorry, yes.
nevertheless, these warriors translate very nicely to the modern day, to modern Israel. You could make that
Yeah,
case.
well.
You could make that case. Or am I being cynical?
But here we're talking about a government that purposely makes your life difficult, not as a consequence of the democratic game. That's sometimes what happens, that you don't like what the government does because, well, your candidate lost the election. Maybe because their candidate won the election. That's why you don't like it. Yeah, but all this was written with a non-Jewish government in mind.
But these are all believers and servants of God.
Yes, but all these rabbis, they saw what happened with people when they tried to be close to the king, or close to the governor, close to the herald, close to the duke in those days.
And this is the Dark Ages. We're talking about barbarian governments, not a democratic government.
Yeah, and the relationship with the Jews was good for a few months, and then would be bad for another, and they would be expelled from one place, and they would have to move to another, and then this rabbis said, are really going to believe that they are going to be your friend?
It didn't really matter if you're talking about 1400 origin.
Yep.
It didn't change.
And they like you as long as you loan them money, and then they expel the entire Jewish community so they don't have to pay it back.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Did not some prominent rabbis that did serve high positions in non-Jewish Don Abarbanel of Spain, wasn't there a rabbi?
Sometimes they were invited to the courts. Yes.
What's his name? Abarbanel?
Abarbanel. And many times what happened is they were appointed. You could not refuse to be there, especially also with a Muslim government. You are summoned, you have to go.
The issue really is whether you can serve two masters. So here they use the word government, but it can be the same thing if you're an ethical person doing an ethical job,
Yeah.
but then you're in a business and you become the president of a big business, and then you have a different master. It's the master may be your shareholders, whatever. But you can't really serve two masters is what they're saying.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So,
And be ethical.
let's at least introduce the next one. Then we can continue maybe next time with the other. But it's related to the one.
This is like a rap.
Sorry?
The Rabbi Tarfon.
Sorry, telephone. What happened?
That's like a rap.
Like a rap?
Yes.
Why? You like the way it sounds?
Yeah.
Okay, let.
Well, I can't wrap it, but the day is short, the labor is long. The day is short, the labor is long. The workers are lazy, the reward is great, and the master of the boss is banging. Well, dochek. Yeah, the Rabbi Tarfon said, the day is short, the work is much. The workers are lazy, and the reward is great. The master of the house is pressing. But it was written in the vernacular of the time, and almost in verse.
Okay, and read the other one.
Rabbi Tarfon used to say, it is not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. If you have learned much Torah, your reward will be much, and the master of your work is trustworthy to pay you the wage for your activity. And know, the giving of reward to the righteous is in the future to come.
Or in the world to come, in the other world, after you die. But basically, this is the answer to what happened if you're a Rabbi Akiva. You are 40 years old. You never learned a word of Hebrew, and now you want to become a rabbi. Should you still pursue it, knowing that maybe it's too late in your life? Rabbi Tarfon says yes. Why? Because it is not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. Right?
Well, the only thing is with Rabbi Akiva, and I'm getting this from, there was a popular Israeli song. He only, if the song is correct, he only he only agreed to study the Torah because
For marriage.
the woman he loved placed that as the condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that's true, if it's
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that there were many others. They were same age of Rabbi Akiva. They decided to become a rabbi later in life. And they failed. We don't know about them because they didn't go anywhere. They disappear in history, but what this Rabbi Tarfon is saying, that doesn't really matter. Success and failure are in the hands of God if you always give your best. It's your race. You should not compare yourself to anybody else except yourself. The only thing that you have to be, say, when you said, I want to be better than, right? And people go through life saying, I want to be better than fill the blank. You have to say to yourself, I want to be better than myself a year ago. Yeah, but that's also, you have to develop it. But you should not compare your faith to somebody else's faith. You cannot compare your connection with God with Moses' connection with God. Moses has his race, and his race, his issues. And you have yours, and I have mine. So each one connects with God differently. That's why when we pray the Amidah, the central prayer of the service, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu. What's next? Elohei, Elohei, v'Elohei, Elohei, Elohei, Elohei. Okay, but which word I'm repeating all the time? Elohei. Why do we repeat the word Elohei? It's not necessary. Grammatically, it's not necessary. You can say Elohei Abraham veYitzchak veYaakov veSarah veRachel veSarah veRivka veRachel veLeah and.
It's a reminder that each one is connected individually.
To God in a different way. Because even though it sounds the same, it's God. But each one experiences God in a different way. Why? Because God is infinite. So what happens is when you connect to something that is infinite, each one of us connects to the infinite in a different way. Actually, I want to say that we connect in a different way, we perceive it differently.
Just kind of a small question, just at the end, and all the giving of the reward to the righteous is in the strikes me as it isn't a very Jewish kind of thing. I know it's for the other people. You know, they would exploit the peasants and
Yes.
grind them down. And so the answer that the church told them, well, your situation isn't great now. However, in the world to come, you're gonna do okay. Isn't
Yes,
that
but the difference is,
that just an excuse?
no, the difference is
Them down.
the church will try to keep them down. What the rabbis are telling you is you have to keep pushing yourself to become better and better, and you have to strive for more. You have to constantly strive for more. You may not achieve it in this life, but eventually you're going to be rewarded for your effort because you try. And maybe your goal was to try. It's what we call, the rabbis call it tikkun neshama. Tikkun neshama, it means the reparation of the soul. And each soul needs different kind of reparation. This is coming from the belief in reincarnation, by the way. That sometimes we have to come back to correct only one thing. There is a famous story that Rabbi Moshe Feinstein used to tell. I don't know if you know who Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was. I'm repeating this story because, it's not a guy who will create fake story just to impress somebody. He was a very serious guy, very orthodox, ultra-religious fellow, and he was considered by many Orthodox Jews in the United States on the 20th century as the greatest scholar. It's something that in this day, 21st century, nobody replaced him. So that's why sometimes it's difficult to find one vision in many things. But Rabbi Feinstein had this thing that whatever he said was the word of God. But for many things, like there was one famous thing that he said is, there was this, you will laugh about this, there was this controversy about single malt scotch that is aged on non-kosher wine barrels. Is it kosher or not? Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said, yes, it is. Yeah, l'chaim. Everybody accepted it because it was Moshe Feinstein, the one who said. Actually, he said, he particularly wouldn't drink it unless it was for a l'chaim, for like it was a bris. And so there is a reason to do it for a mitzvah that they will do. Otherwise, he will try to avoid that, but he said, you can do it. That kind of rabbi, he was Moshe Feinstein. So that he approved single malt scotch aged on sherry barrels.
I'm so grateful to you.
Yeah. You can go put a stone on his grave next time you go to New York.
Absolutely. I'll raise a glass to him when I get there.
So, but Moshe Feinstein told the story about this Jewish boxer. I can't remember the name. Who one day showed up to his yeshiva, and he wanted to study Talmud. The guy, he never studied anything. Now he wanted to study Talmud. He was a boxer. He was Jewish, fully Jewish. He went there, okay, said this teacher is going to teach you. And he was struggling with studying one page of the Talmud. Couldn't get it. I don't know if you ever tried to open a page of the Talmud. He said, a page. Oh, no. Depends on the tractate. A page would make your life miserable for the rest of your life. Because it's difficult to understand the logic behind it. He struggled until one day he got it. He understood the fullness of that page. He wanted to throw a party and invite the yeshiva. And they said, no, you don't do that. You celebrate when you finish the tractate of the Talmud, not when you finish a page. He wanted to do it anyway. And he said, and I want Moshe Feinstein to come to my party. And they said, are you not? No, he won't come to your party. He's the Rosh Yeshiva. He's busy. He doesn't go to parties of somebody who wants to celebrate because they finished one page. This guy was so insistent that he did the party and Moshe Feinstein showed up to that party to celebrate with the guy because he said, you know, this is great that somebody that he was so far away from Judaism, he came, he studied a page of the Talmud, and this was great, and they celebrated the day after he died, the boxer. He died. And Moshe Feinstein showed up to the funeral and he asked if he could deliver the eulogy. And what he said is that he knows that that guy, who everybody knows him as the boxer, that he was the soul of a famous scholar who in his previous life neglected that page of the Talmud. So he was sent back to this world to finish that page. And that's why he has this desire that he couldn't explain, that he wanted to celebrate that page. And after he did that, he fulfilled his mission, he died. He died in his sleep. It was very spooky. And Moshe Feinstein did his funeral, which was very weird. He would never stop his busy schedule to attend the funeral of the boxer to do that. But if he used it to prove a point about this. So, yeah.
Great story.
How do we do that? How do we go there? I don't know, but I think it's a good story nevertheless.
Is there not another, somewhere, I remember in my previous studies of Pirkei Avot, where it says you don't do work or engage in an effort with the expectation of payment or a reward. You do it
For the sake of.
for the sake
Yes. Yes, yes, it says. But here it is basically, I think Rabbi Tarfon is he's presenting a very optimistic message. Very optimistic message. He said, doesn't matter what stage of your life you are, if you want to do it, you're never too late. It's never too late. You realize that when Moses says to Pharaoh, let my people go, he was 80 years old. Well, he died when he was 120, and that was 40 years after the Exodus, right? So that means that he was 80 when he spoke to Pharaoh. I think he was outside Egypt also for 40 years. He was with Yitro. Doing nothing, just taking care of the sheep. Right? And then eventually he went and did it. Well, he was one of the cases that we know he succeeded. Many others, maybe they did, but it doesn't matter. Every race is different. You are running your own race. You shouldn't compare yourself to anybody except yourself. You have to aim to be better and better all the time. Yes. So maybe we just study this one next time. You can actually see in the next page, I put the photo of the Rabbi Tarfon's grave, so you can visit it in Israel.
Yes.
Many of the graves of the Tanaim are.
I didn't know he was from Lod.
Sorry?
He's from Lod.
Yeah, but you see, this also was the descendants of converts. There were many of these rabbis that they were descendants of converts. Many.
Tarfon is a form of the Greco-Roman name Trifon. Triponas, yeah. There's a great musician in Triponas.
Okay. So we will study this, I think. Sorry?
So not to make you want to study the Haggadah all over again, but in a different sense, when we read about Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi and their conversations.
Yeah. Rabbi Tarfon, it was interesting because Rabbi Tarfon was a student of Rabbi Akiva, and they became colleagues.
What year was this? Was this after the destruction of the temple?
After the destruction of, yeah.
Yes.
What famous rabbi was also the deputy high priest for the Kohen Sagan when the temple was still standing? I remember some rabbi, I forget who it was, that was also, I think he was Kohen Sagan, deputy.
Tzadok. But Tzadok? I don't know.
Tzadok would not have been a rabbi.
Before his time.
No, that's what I said.
Yeah, well, no, there were rabbis towards the end of the first, the first century of the Common Era, there were Pharisees had already existed in the temples.
Yeah, remember all these rabbis that we are reading here, they came after the destruction of the temple, the first temple.
Hillel was alive when the temple was standing there, wasn't he?
Who?
Hillel and Shammai, they were alive when the temple was still.
Well, but the second temple, not the first one.
Yeah, the second temple.
Yes, the second. Yeah. But all the Zugot were teaching when the first temple was destroyed. Because remember that's why the Zugot started. Because with the destruction of the first temple, the prophets ended. There was no more prophecy. So now the rabbis picked up the job of teaching the nation.
And wasn't there the story of Hillel working with the group of rabbis near the ruins of...
That was Rabbi Akiva.
Oh, that was Akiva.
They said, "What are you crying? And why are you laughing?" Remember?
Because the fox is running through...
Yeah, there were 4 rabbis, and they asked Rabbi Akiva, said, "What are you laughing?" He was laughing in the ruins. It was very interesting story. Rabbi Akiva. Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Next time we are going to study the second Mishnah about work. Thank you, everyone online. I'm going to shut the class. There were 3 people following.
And you knew ahead of time they were going to be doing this, or
Yes.
what's it under? If you're one's away and you want to pick it up, it's on just a Sharezatic
In the same thing you will use for the service. And if you want to send us,
I find the easiest way is just to go to Sharezatic and get
yeah, but I don't know if you have the chat there. If you go to the web to www.youtube.com/szwinnipeg, you open that and you have the full chat, so you can interact with me. In this case, I didn't get any chat, but we could. Oh, thank you. Oh, before everybody leaves, I need your names before you have to sign up. I forgot to pass this, so everybody can sign up. Yes, coffee and cookies downstairs on the lower lounge.